Hi, Bernhard.
Hi, Carsten. So in this video, we are going to deploy an empty AVD host pool in Azure.
Yeah, now we switch to Azure, right? We need some resources in Azure, and we had a hefty discussion how to name them. So let's go.
Let's go to
It's
the,
a joke, but it's also a problem. You have to specify right names for your resource groups and every resource in Azure. Otherwise, it will be a mess.
so naming conventions could be be a lot, could raise a lot of discussions. So, yes, for the people new to AVD, right, there are three objects that you should be aware of. So there is a management plane for managing Azure Virtual Desktop, and it's the same one also for if you would place Azure Virtual Desktop on HCI. So a lot of things would be managed here. Not all of them, but most of them. So the same concepts apply to AVD on HCI, and the management plane would be the same. First, we have host pools, and we are going to create a host pool. A host pool is a definition of desktops, what operating system they have, if they are used for pooled users or if they are used for personal desktops. That means Bernhard Frank always gets the same desktop, and sort of configure also the load balancing mechanism, the distribution, and some other settings, like, for example, can I bring my USB to that desktop or not? The other thing is the second thing is the application groups. This is where you say, hey, these users have access to this desktop, right? So you have the user to desktop management there. And then finally, you have the workspace, which is sort of displaying what the individual user can see, which desktops he can see, which resources he can access, right? So the first thing, we will create the desktop, or no, not the desktop, the host pool, in which we will put the desktops later into. So would be this video. Okay, so let's create a host pool, and we'll put it into the right subscription. Let's choose the right one. And we also create a new resource group, which we call AVD, and maybe also the location, which is in our case should be West Europe. So let's change that to West Europe. Why am I naming this? Because all of the resources within that resource group should be, for consistency reason, be also tagged in, or in West Europe. That does mean the Azure objects, right? I mean, the desktops will be in your database or not in your data center, wherever that is, but the mappings to it will be in West Europe. And they need to be sort of consistent so that each of the resources see each other, right? So I think, what was the name for the host pool? I think we agreed on
AVD-HCI, and then we specified host
number.
pool 1.
Yes, so we might have multiple ones. It is AVD workload. It is sitting on HCI, right? And then it is not a validation environment. I mean, some of the preview features would go into this, or you would have access to preview features at some point if you do validation environments. Now, let's do it like this. We have a preferred app group, so we could do remote apps, but at that section, we just want to concentrate on the desktop itself, meaning access to the full desktop. And then there is another option, which is, either do you want to use a personal desktop, so sort of a one-to-one mapping. That could be for high privileged users like developers or construction designers that always, that need to install stuff. They may want to have designed or a designated desktop.
You have your own machine, right?
Right.
Where you always are connected to if it's available. But
Right.
with pooled, what is pooled then, Bernhard?
Pooled is, you are, think of it like the scenario for remote desktop workers for people that are, traveling around, connecting up to a desktop using an internet cafe, for example, or something like that. So, they might be using it sporadically, and hence a pooled resource is much better suited for them, as it is making more. It is economically more efficient, right? So
So
you have
I was in the past, I also did some Citrix deployments, but it's long ago. And we had multiple Citrix servers or terminal servers where every server had the same application installed. So it doesn't matter
right,
where a user connects. He has always his applications like any other employee also. So this is a kind of pool. You have multiple of them,
right.
and they are assigned on a load balancing basis, right? And that's
Right.
maybe the
So
next. Or
you're right. So you have, for example, 100 users connecting to 10 desktops, right? 10 desktops are running, and there's sort of some load balancing mechanism that is distributing the access to the users. But
okay,
all of the desktops are looking the same, right? So yes, this is the scenario we want to use, and there is, the load balancing mechanisms that are there is breadth first. That means, you fill up the first host. No, breadth. I always mix them up. So breadth first is, you know, you sort of try to equally distribute the load. So first user, first node, second user, second node, third user, third node, and so on. However, from an economical perspective, sometimes you want to maybe do this depth first, which is filling up the first host, right? So you say, hey, 5 users is the max. Then you go to the next one. And this gives you, sort of maybe the chance to shut down some of the hosts if they are not used,
yeah,
right?
in
And save
Azure that
money.
makes sense, yeah, because you pay
Mm,
by the running machine, right?
correct,
So
correct,
if you
correct.
need resources
Right.
for 20 users, you only need 4 machines maybe,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
others don't have to run and don't are
Yeah.
not built to you. On
Right.
premises, it is maybe different.
It is
So
maybe different, but however, there's some discussion going on via the licensing and the billing regulations for AVD on HCI. So it might also be interesting for this one.
mhm.
But let's pretend that we want to have the best performance for every users, right? So that we want to equally use all of the resources we have. So I go for breadth first, right?
I like that you said, let's pretend that we want the best performance for the user. That's a good one.
Yes, yes. We are admins. We are not we are not the financial guys. We are the good guys for
Okay,
the
we are the
users, right?
good guys. Next.
So next, networking, right? In Azure, you could have the possibility, in order to disable public access and only use, your site-to-site VPN tunnel or express route, only using internal IP addresses for access. But, in our case, we have external users, wanting to connect to the Azure backplane, logging on, right? And then maybe and then hand it over to on-premises network. So in order for our scenario to work from an internet cafe, we would need to enable the public access from all networks.
Mhm.
You should be aware of it, that the desktops that we create are not having public IP addresses. You don't need to, sort of be afraid that they will receive brute force attacks from somewhere in the internet, because the only way that they are accessible is through AVD, right? And the first entry point to AVD is Azure and the Microsoft controlled part. So Microsoft takes care about, the brute force kind of stuff, right? But the desktops that we create have only internal IP addresses from our internal on-premises network, right? So, and we'll tell you a little bit why that works later. Virtual machines, no, we are not creating these ones here, right? Okay, don't have the permissions to some of your objects. Anyways, we are not creating Azure virtual machines here, and you could see there is no option for creating HCI based virtual machines.
Mhm.
So we need to do it in a different way, and that's a later video. Hence, workspace. No, let's do it also later. Therefore, we skip that step. We are also doing diagnostics later. And maybe there's this, we can do some tags for if you ever want to blame someone for, not doing things right, you could add some tags. Okay, creating a host pool should be relatively quick because it's only, some an object, an empty object, nothing big needs to be deployed in Azure, right? So it's only sort of specifying the access. So, hey, Rachfahl IT Solutions can now access some AVD backplane, right? And that's relatively fast. Okay, so we have done this step, and this let's go to the host pool. And as you could see, we have no total machines. Well, okay, obvious. This is a later video, but we have our host pool created, and I think that's our mission for this video.
That's true. So in the next video, we will create some more Azure resources, right?
Mhm.
See you there.